All right, I think we can get started. So my name is Tara Moore, and I'm just going to go over a few of the tech things for us today before I turn it over to Tim Eidlet, who is going to get rolling with the program tonight. I'm really looking forward to hearing from my colleague Mary about all the good work that she's doing. So I'm just going to go over a few quick things. So if anyone has a question during the presentation, you can put up the little hand symbol in the top right-hand corner of the screen. It has a hand and maybe a smiley face in it, and you can click that and we will unmute you and you can ask your question. Or you could put your question in the chat box, which is also located on the top right-hand corner of the screen for me, potentially in another place for the rest of you. And if you could keep your lines muted during the call, that would be perfect. You can keep your video on or off. We would love to see you all if you'd like to put your video on, but that's perfectly fine to keep it off as well. And if anyone has any issues and they're not able to see anything, if you put your question in the chat box, we can definitely help you with that. I know all this Teams and everything is new to some folks, so thanks for joining on, and I'm going to turn it over to Tim Eidlet.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Tim Eidlet, and I'd like to welcome everyone to this webinar with the Albemarle Conservation and Wildlife Chapter of the North Carolina Wildlife Federation. I'm pleased to introduce our speaker, Mary Bures. Mary has a Bachelor of Science degree in Agriculture and Life Sciences from the University of Florida. Mary joined the North Carolina Wildlife Federation team in 2012. She established and directs the Wildlife Federation Great Outdoors University. I'll turn it over to our speaker this evening.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it, and thank you all for inviting me to be here today and share a little bit about the Great Outdoors University with you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
All right, I think we can get started. So my name is Tara Moore, and I'm just going to go over a few of the tech things for us today before I turn it over to Tim Eidlet, who is going to get rolling with the program tonight. I'm really looking forward to hearing from my colleague Mary about all the good work that she's doing. So I'm just going to go over a few quick things. So if anyone has a question during the presentation, you can put up the little hand symbol in the top right-hand corner of the screen. It has a hand and maybe a smiley face in it, and you can click that and we will unmute you and you can ask your question. Or you could put your question in the chat box, which is also located on the top right-hand corner of the screen for me, potentially in another place for the rest of you. And if you could keep your lines muted during the call, that would be perfect. You can keep your video on or off. We would love to see you all if you'd like to put your video on, but that's perfectly fine to keep it off as well. And if anyone has any issues and they're not able to see anything, if you put your question in the chat box, we can definitely help you with that. I know all this Teams and everything is new to some folks, so thanks for joining on, and I'm going to turn it over to Tim Eidlet.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Tim Eidlet, and I'd like to welcome everyone to this webinar with the Albemarle Conservation and Wildlife Chapter of the North Carolina Wildlife Federation. I'm pleased to introduce our speaker, Mary Bures. Mary has a Bachelor of Science degree in Agriculture and Life Sciences from the University of Florida. Mary joined the North Carolina Wildlife Federation team in 2012. She established and directs the Wildlife Federation Great Outdoors University. I'll turn it over to our speaker this evening.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it, and thank you all for inviting me to be here today and share a little bit about the Great Outdoors University with you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So, yes, I'm with the Great Outdoors University. It's a program of the North Carolina Wildlife Federation. I guess I'm going to have to say next slide. And we call it GO-U for short. It's a conservation-based experiential education program that's designed to bring the outdoor adventures to kids of all ages who have limited opportunities to explore the natural world. So basically what we try to do is break down the barriers that exist to getting kids outside, and work with partner organizations to serve the kids and provide them the opportunity to step into the magnificent outdoors and explore and enjoy the wonders and the surprises that are out there that trigger their enjoyment in nature and increases their interest in continuing to learn more about it, igniting their curiosity and excitement and awe. You might wonder, why do we decide to start GoU? Well, kids today are spending over 7 hours a day in front of screens and only minutes in unstructured free time outdoors. This is impacting their overall health. You can go to the next slide. Next slide. Believe it or not, there's a lot of kids who've never had the chance to play in a creek or a stream or to hold a little millipede or a frog. And these are experiences that we provide them the opportunity to have with the Great Outdoors University. Also, it's sort of staggering to think, but research has said that kids by the time they're 8 years old today have spent 1 entire year of their life in front of a screen. Again, when they're 8 years old, they've spent an entire year, 365 days of their life in front of a screen. So you may have read Richard Lou's book, Last Child in the Woods, and heard about the nature deficit disorder. But this is why we decided to start the Great Outdoors University. Also, if kids have never had the chance to see or explore the natural world and grow to appreciate it and have fun in it, then how are we ever expecting them to become stewards of the earth in the future and now? So for these reasons and many more, we started the Great Outdoors University. Next. It gives kids the chance to just be free outside and experience simple things like walking through the leaves and hearing them crunch under their feet as they explore what surprises they might find, or even playing in the mud in a creek. Next. So what are the benefits of programs like the Great Outdoors University that give kids the opportunity, and people of all ages the opportunity, to actually connect with the natural world? It impacts the whole child, their body, their mind, and their spirit. Next. Studies have shown that it reduces stress, anger, and aggression. So as you know, in today's world, there's a great deal of violence that's occurring, and also some suicidal tendencies that are running pretty rampant. And this has been proven to help reduce the stress and the anger and the aggression, such that they become better at team building, working together, and resolving conflicts. Next. As I said, it does improve their relationship skills. Next. And also it gives them the opportunity to increase physical activity while they're having fun. So they don't really realize that they're being as physically active as they are, which actually helps to build that, that habit actually. And due to the increase in physical activity, it helps to reduce their risk of obesity. You probably know that's one of the childhood morbidities that the pediatricians are speaking to today, that has risen so dramatically and is affecting not only their weight, but also it leads to things like diabetes and increased incidence in high blood pressure in young kids and even heart disease. Next. It's also proven to help kids cognitively by boosting their performance in reading, writing, math, science, social studies, but also next. And these kids actually were from English as a second language group of kids. And so you'll notice that we use both the photos and the words. As we were exploring the natural world, they could learn the English while they were exploring. And it broke down barriers. The language really wasn't a problem for us, despite the fact that we had kids that probably spoke 5 different languages other than English. They did very, very well and were extremely excited out there exploring and excited to check off the things that they found in nature. Next. It also enhances creativity, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills in a variety of ways, whether it's, figuring out how to build your shelter together as a team or solving other creative problems in the natural world and in their everyday lives. Next. It's been proven that it increases the focus and attention and therefore decreases ADHD symptoms. Once had a 14-year-old named Joaquin who came and he just could not focus for the life of him. He was all over the place. And after a little bit of time out in nature with us, he said he's never felt so calm and it was so peaceful out there that he couldn't believe it. So it really does have that calming effect, as you all probably know, because you hopefully spend some time out in nature yourselves. And that's very important for kids today, as ADHD is also extremely prevalent with kids. Next. It increases their enthusiasm for learning and gives them opportunity to become engaged in real life experiences, as opposed to reading it in a book like they might have to do in school. It's fun to see the kids, their light bulbs come on when they're out there exploring. And we might be talking about a decomposing log, for example, and they see their little roly-poly and they might find other little critters and the fungi. And we talk to them about the bacteria, the fungi, and the insects, the FBI, who are the decomposers, and how they help to turn that log into soil. And the kids just light up with excitement when they say, oh, we learned about that in school, but I never really understood it. And now I understand it. And the next time they come, we like to reinforce some of the things they learn. So of course we ask them about it, and they share that with a friend who may not have been there the time before, all the information that they learned, even though we might be speaking to a different subject that day, or most likely are speaking to a different subject that day. Next. Also leads to less disruptive behavior, helps the kids to control their impulses to be disruptive. And this in part, they're focusing, they're excited, they're having fun. And so they really don't see the need to do these things. And that nature is very soothing. Next. So having good role models and mentors out there in nature also helps them, because our role models and mentors, the Go You team, they get just as excited as kids do to find new things out in nature. And you never know what you're going to find. So you always take those moments when you trip upon something out in the natural world to let them explore it and really take in the discovery, even if it isn't right on the subject of whatever it is we're talking about that particular day. Every trip that we do, we have a hike, so to speak. I sort of put quotes around that word hike because it's really more like a walk, but we do it in smaller groups so that the kids can hear easily and they can all see whatever we're looking at pretty easily, as opposed to taking all 20 with one person or one staff member. So we usually try to have a 2 adults for every 7 kid ratio so that they can really have a great experience out there in the natural world. Next. So our goals, you might ask, what are they? Next. To empower the kids with the opportunity to discover and experience the many joys, wonders, and benefits of nature, whether it's catching their first fish, paddling on a lake, or hiking in the woods, discovering more about trees, or any of the other subjects. We have about 25 curriculum options that we've got aligned to the standards that we use to present the subject matter. And some of them involve different STEM topics, and some of them would involve paddling, like I said, or fishing, or hiking, or even low ropes course. Next. We inspire curiosity about the natural world that fosters a passion for continued learning. As I said, many of the kids are afraid to walk in the woods when they first arrive. This was especially true when we first started, before we started seeing kids more than once. And oftentimes that's due to misconceptions or misinformation that they have. They might think they're going to see a bear or see an alligator, and so we have to help them to get the correct information And other times it might be based on fact, but they just have to be coaxed to understand that they're safe out there and take it slowly with them. But it isn't long before they're sitting down looking eye to eye with that little frog or looking for some little critters in the woods. They're right in there with us. It doesn't take much to turn them around from that fear. Next. And you can see that they do hands-on. They may have the nerve to try to hold their little millipedes or their little frogs or toads. I should say toads. And it's an experience that they'll probably remember for the rest of their life. I could ask you all, what's your first memory of being out in nature? And what impacted you to really appreciate it? If you think about that question for just a minute, and you can write it in the chat if you'd like, to share what was your trigger to realize that you love the natural world and wanted to explore. Next. We want to encourage kids to embrace their personal responsibility, teamwork, and master problem-solving abilities through learning hands-on outdoor skills and mentoring with strong role models. So sometimes we do, actually help them to plant plants at their own sites. Say, for example, this one's at the Boys and Girls Club, and we let them do it so they can take pride in helping with the work and caring for it long term and watching it as it grows. We've also done gardens with some of them, and where they get to actually pick the vegetables down the road and learn to prepare them at their club site. Next. Promote physical fitness and mental well-being. So we also partner with groups, for example, Trips for Kids, where they provide the bikes, and that prevents us from having to go and purchase bikes for the kids to be able to experience biking and hiking. Also, we partner with Latta Plantation, for example, for the canoes, so we don't go and buy the canoes. This makes it possible for us, by partnering with the organizations, to decrease our expenses and increase the number of kids that we can serve. Next. So speaking of partners, we have over 75 different partners. We have both participant partners and you can see here's a list of some of them. And our participant partners are those who work with the kids. So they are groups that work with kids, and they are the ones that we take on day trips. So we partner with them to provide the kids and some chaperones, and then we provide everything else, of course, the staff and what have you. If they have transportation, we let them provide that. If they don't, we would help them work through those challenges. Next. Next. We also work with destination partners. So for example, we work with the state parks. We have Crowder's Mountain State Park, the Morrill Mountain State Park, the South Mountain State Park, and George Poston State Park. We also work with our nature preserves, such as Reedy Creek, Latta, and McDowell. And we have some sort of rather unique partners like Lomax Farm and Cedar Grove Retreat. Cedar Grove Retreat is where we had the low ropes course. And Lomax Farm actually teaches farmers how to raise crops. And then we also had UNC's Botanical Garden, for example. Next. So at this point, I want to encourage you to get outside with your kids, your grandkids, your friends and families, and encourage them to go and explore their backyards, their communities, and the parks, and have fun together as a family or with friends, and get that connection to nature that has so many benefits that it provides. I'm going to share with you next a brief video that sort of summarizes everything I just said. It's about 3 minutes long, so next. Okay, can you start? Yeah. Can you turn the volume up? Tara?
I don't think that volume actually plays through Microsoft Teams. We've tried playing videos before and it actually doesn't. We never figured out how to get it to play.
Try unmuting yourself, Tara.
She's unmuted now.
All right. Well, okay. So at this point, I guess I'll just ask if anybody has any questions.
In the meantime, I can share what people wrote in the chat about some of their first experiences in the outdoors. Koza was helping an injured rabbit and releasing it back into nature was her first experience. And then Claire wrote as a family camping and having a fire at the state park. So those are really, really great.
They are.
And we can definitely share that video afterwards with all of you, because I'm sure it would be great to hear all of the sounds. I was hearing it from my end, and it's a really great video. So we can share that with all of you through an email afterwards as well.
Tara, can I ask the question?
Yeah, go for it.
Are they doing outings now during the COVID pandemic?
Yes, we are. We did put together a set of guidelines, however. So we have the, we all wear masks and we ask that our partners wear masks. We also have limited the group size. They tend to be smaller groups. And we've got hand sanitizer and make sure there's restrooms available for washing and soap. We bring soap with us. So we have a lot of the protocols in place, but we have been doing programs since July of last year. I will say, though, they are smaller groups.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a quick question. If we're waiting on some other folks to come up with some questions and comments. So how does it differ from the really small kids that you work with and the older kids? Because you work with some that are in preschool, right, Mary? And then you have some that are in their upper teens.
Right. Well, we started actually originally when we began the program, we decided we would serve ages 6 to 18, but then we had requests for the 4 and 5-year-olds. And so we have lowered the age limit to include the 4 and 5-year-olds because it's just as important for them to get outside and explore the natural world. Now, the way that you present the programs is totally different. They're just as excited as the older kids, but we have to gear things according to their ages. And so ideally, we don't have groups that have 4 and 5-year-olds and 15 and 18-year-olds. So they're more age appropriate as far as the content goes.
Thanks, Mary.
Miss Mary, how would we go about getting the information to set up an outing?
Well, right now, I should say we serve the greater Charlotte region, which includes the 9 counties that surround Mecklenburg and Mecklenburg County. Now, we would also, we do events too for families. And so not right now during COVID. That is one thing we have had to stop at this point in time. But once we get that the COVID under control, we do family fun days. So some of them are called Kids in Nature Days, but they can have different titles. And that's when we would come to, collaborate with a chapter and or Hall River State Park, for example. We collaborated with them in Greensboro, as well as the Greensboro Science Center and UNC Greensboro to host a family fun day there at Hall River State Park. And we've done that several times there. So the possibility for us to do something like that, where are you located?
I'm in Elizabeth City.
Okay. So we might be able to work with a chapter in Elizabeth City to host a family fun day there. And for those events, what we do is they get the opportunity to bring their kids and come fish and hike with a naturalist that leads the hike. We have different STEM activities and nature-based crafts and things too. We do hope eventually to expand, but right now it's the greater Charlotte region and the counties that surround Mecklenburg.
Okay, so you actually have to reside in those counties
For us to do the day trips.
Okay.
But to do the Kids in Nature Days, I'd love to entertain that thought with you.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe we could host a larger event there once, like once, and try it and see how it goes and nurture some volunteers and things from that area.
Awesome.
I would love to do that.
I think Tim has a question.
It's actually Michelle. My
Hey,
question
Michelle.
is, our rangers, I know at the park we work with, when different grade levels come, they work with a standard course of study to try to help teachers because they have so much to do with all the testing that they're having. So do you work with a standard course of study when you're working with specific age groups, if that's the request?
Yes, we do. In fact, we have a lot of STEM courses that are totally aligned with the curriculum. And what I do is I work with the partner organizations based on which age group they're bringing. Then we jointly decide, and the time of year and the location where we can take them. We use all of that information to decide what the offering is going to be that time. And of course, there's some that come repeatedly, which is the ideal situation. And so we would offer it, they'd get to do a series of classes. And this, during COVID, I had to create a lot of new classes too, because I've had some groups come once a week. So it's been good for that.
Terry Boyce is wondering if you can give him a call about trips. He's actually doing a similar program with our Camp Kale, and they did like 600 and some kids this year, over 1,000 last year, where they're working with the surrounding counties around here. And Camp Kale has things like the ropes, it has archery, fishing, kayaking. And he's interested in getting with y'all and see if you can work something together. So I can send his number to Tara or to you.
Yeah, please send it to me. I'd love to talk with Terry. Maybe that'd be a potential place where we could partner to collaborate and host one of the family fun days. Is that something you'd be interested in, Terry?
I think he may be on mute, so it's probably just something to check in with him after on the phone.
Okay.
But Camp, you got me there.
Mm-hmm.
Camp Kale is our Baptist camp for about 62 churches in our area. And as part of the Chowan Baptist Association, we've got about 100 acres there, and kayaks, canoes, docking, swimming, and cabins. And of course, what you do is day trips and not overnight trips. And they also have skeet range, archery range, 22 range. Michelle and I have worked with him a lot. Terry's a member of our chapter too.
That sounds fantastic. Some of those things we do not do, swimming or horseback riding, for example, and that's in part due to our insurance. But it certainly sounds like most of it, like we do kayak and canoeing, but we don't swim per se. So it sounds wonderful, and I think there'd be a tremendous opportunity there. So I do hope that you send me Terry's information and we can talk and bounce around some ideas and make something happen.
And we have a question from Jim too.
Yes, Mary, it's a great program that you have. I'm just curious about how trips get initiated. Meaning, do you need to go out and ask groups? I know you need to find participant locations and support, but do you have just families and organized groups coming to you asking for an outing?
We do, and sometimes I'll go ask them as well. If there are some of my, like the Boys and Girls Clubs, for example, we usually meet. We usually meet. Now, right now I'm doing it one by one, but pre-COVID, we would meet and sit around the table and plan the calendar for the next 6 months, for example.
I see.
And understand that, say, if we say the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Gaston, that means there's at least 4 different club sites. And in Charlotte, there's at least 7 different club sites. So it Boys and Girls Clubs can encompass more than one group. And that's why I used to, do it like that. But right now we're doing it one at a time. I might send them an email reminder and say, you know, do you want to book some of your trips now?
Sure.
But I also have groups calling as well.
Okay. Part of the reason for asking is our state parks are having record visitation right now with the pandemic, which is wonderful in most respects, but it's also a challenge. and you would need some, you know, advanced planning to be able to arrange a visit like yours at a state park, just because of resources and crowd factor.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you do plan ahead, and you would be able to get that on a calendar or something if you were
absolutely
at a state park. Right.
And we were just at Crowder's last week, I think, actually.
Okay.
It really varies, but more often than not, we go on weekdays. I know the weekends are packed there,
Exactly.
but the weekdays are a little bit more quiet. So we didn't really see anybody but ourselves, which was wonderful, and the ranger. So,
okay. Good. You got
but
it
it is
figured out.
time. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If anyone has any more questions. Oh, Tim, you have a question?
Yes. We've tossed around quite a bit of trying to collaborate with the Wildlife Federation, state parks is, and trying to get this program moved toward the east. What types of individuals work with you, Mary? And I was glad to see Ms. Blunt join us from Elizabeth City Middle School. She and I have had numerous conversations, and I think she actually would be one of the people interested in maybe being a team leader or something eventually. Mary and I have been talking about trying to train the trainers kind of thing idea with people down this end of the state. And of course, we've got to find some financial resources in order to be able to do these sort of things. But, you know, teachers would love to help do things like this on Saturdays and during the summertime when they're not employed with the school system.
Right. No, it's teachers. It's, I've had park rangers, not current park rangers, but like someone who used to work at Crowder's Mountain for years, worked with me. Biology majors, environmental education majors, really a variety of backgrounds. Some things that are critical is they have to really have a passion for the outdoors and be able to share their passion. They don't have to know every single thing, because kids, you know, they don't want you reciting the Latin name for every plant you pass. That would actually probably turn them off. But you know, you have to know enough, and you have to know how to find the answers with the kids. And but the passion is the most critical thing, and also being, you know, good with kids, being able to relate to them and interact well with them. Most of them have some type of science background in, obviously, the natural sciences, and or teachers with that background.
Do we have any more questions? This was really great. I know we all got a lot from it, and we'll probably want to do some follow-up calls, but did anyone else have any more questions to ask Mary today?
Just one quick one, and that is, what is your schedule looking like? Here we are in February. What's going to happen the next month or two? Have you got anything booked?
Oh yeah, I do probably about 2 to 3 a week right now.
Oh wow.
And I'm getting ready to start entertaining conversations with the Boys and Girls Clubs. So that means that I'll probably book some more. I expect that our spring break week will be pretty crowded. It usually is. That's always a prime time. But realistically, we've got some new groups that have, though they're smaller groups, they've been very active throughout the winter, which has been new and refreshing for us, because sometimes it's more fair. They like the fair weather better.
Who doesn't?
I know.
Well, great. Thanks, everyone. And if anyone needed anyone's contact info who's currently on here, I sent an email earlier with the link in it. So you can reply to that and let me know whose contact info you need, and I'll make sure to get that over to you. That may be an easy way, since we have a bunch of different people here who need to touch base.
Can you ask Miss Mary one more question?
Sure.
Miss Mary, okay, I have 5 grandchildren.
Wonderful.
And let's say you're doing an outing in Charlotte, that area, and I'm willing to drive my children, my grandchildren, to where you are.
Mm-hmm.
How would that work?
Well, I just
Would
have to.
that work?
It could work. Yes, absolutely it can. I mean, if you're in the area, I'd love to invite you and do an outing with you and the kids. So, and if you had a couple of people who wanted to do that, so we ended up with more like 12 kids, that'd be fine too.
Okay.
So if they want some friends to come and you have a way to get them here, then that would be wonderful. But absolutely, I'd love to have you come.
I know I'm a minister at my church, and the youth minister was just talking last night. She would love to find something for the children to do. And we have a bus, so we could we wouldn't bring a whole bus load, but we could bring them to Charlotte for an outing. So I was just wondering.
Absolutely. I'd love to talk with you. Please send me my email, just so you all know, is Mary@NC, like North Carolina, WF.org. Mary@NCWF.org. And my cell phone number is 704-965-9307. And if you have any, you want to partner, do anything like that, please don't hesitate to send me an email or call me. I'd love to talk with you. And and also and we might be able to work something out where we meet a little bit closer. So we can talk.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you and your kids.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for being on the call. Tim and Michelle, was there anything else you wanted to add in before we sign off?
Tara, I really would like to thank you for setting this virtual meeting up, although you can't see us, but that's okay. And I really want to thank Mary for taking the time to explain this program to, well, probably all over the state. And I was glad to see some of my folks I've talked to for a long time about this participate. And Ms. Blunt, you could probably get in contact with Mary at Crider's Mountain, which is near Charlotte, but Morrow Mountain is a lot closer, and Hall River is a lot closer, because Hall River is just 4 hours away from Elizabeth City.
And even though, this is Michelle, even though the state park rangers are not doing programs right now, all the state parks, of which we have 3 close by, do programs for groups also, Miss Blunt.
And please remember that there are 41 state parks across our state, and they're just wonderfully, naturally wonderful.
As a matter of fact, I'm in the process of planning a trip for my brothers and my nieces and all of them. I want to take them to Grandfather Mountain.
Oh, nice.
So I'm in the process of doing that, but I would like to have programs to do for the children at church and some of my students in my classroom and my grandchildren, where we could just go and do it and have a good time.
Well, if you could give me a call, I'll set you up with Andy Seacard. He's the ranger there at Grandfather. He has done virtual hikes up Grandfather Mountain for several elementary schools in our area.
Oh, what? Mr. Adler, give me your number again.
335-0079. Our park rangers are wonderful working with teachers across the state.
Awesome.
They definitely are.
I'm looking forward to it.
And our new director, Dwayne Patterson, his #1 goal is to get kids in parks. So
awesome.
And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. We thought we were going to be able to give you the program we're having on the 3rd Thursday in March, but the Wildlife Commission has said people can't take their laptops home. So we might have to do that during the daytime.
Okay.
But we'll have an interesting program for the third Thursday in March with somebody.
All righty.
Sounds great. Well, thank you all. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to talking to several of you after the meeting, or well, in the future.
Yes.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night, everybody.
You too, hon.
Thank you.
Mr. Idley, I will be calling you.